With New York City students heading back to the classroom in just a few weeks, the Department of Health making sure kids start the new school year happy and healthy. From cell phone bans to vaccination rates, the City Health Commissioner, Morse, goes on the record. The Jersey City mayoral race certainly heating up. Council member James Solomon telling us why he should lead New Jersey's second largest city. Get his plan for affordability, taxes, and more. And a corruption cloud looms over Mayor Eric Adams. His former chief advisor, Ingrid Lewis-Martin, facing new charges in the City Hall corruption probe. PIX on Politics starts right now.
This is PIX on Politics with Dan Mannarino.
And welcome to PIX on Politics, everybody. I am Dan Mannarino. So, unfortunately, the summer, it's winding down. Students savoring the last of those vacations, right, as are parents. The City Health Department working now to make sure the school year starts off on a very healthy note. So from vaccines to cell phone bans, and before we know it, cold and flu season. And while they are gearing up for that, they're also dealing with a very active health concern right now, and that's Legionnaires' disease, with 6 losses of life from it. So the city's acting health commissioner, Dr. Morse, here to discuss it all. She is going on the record. Dr. Morse, great to have you here on PIX on Politics. Good to see you.
Thank you for having me.
So we'll talk all things back to school in just a minute, but I want to begin with Legionnaires' the concerns right now, because they are very real in Central Harlem. When you hear 6 people have lost their life because of it, where are you now in terms of containing this?
The good news is that all 12 cooling towers in the investigation zone have been decontaminated and treated. So that tells us that the likelihood of anyone getting a new infection at this point is almost none, and that's exciting. However, our investigation is ongoing, and very soon we'll have the results of our whole genome sequencing that may allow us to match the strain of Legionella that got people sick in Central Harlem with a specific cooling tower or cooling towers.
And just this week we reported the 6th death from it. Can you explain how that works? Because I thought it was actually a new case.
It's interesting because our disease detectives are very, very active. Anyone who gets diagnosed with Legionella, they do a very long list of questions to really understand, were they in the zone of investigation or not, and for how much time. But what's interesting also, of course, is that people who may have been in Central Harlem during the time of our investigation are all over the world, because New York City is a global city. And so some people actually may have gotten diagnosed with Legionnaires back home, wherever they're from, and it took us some time to fully investigate and figure out, were they actually in Central Harlem and at a time when they might have been exposed. That takes time, and so those deaths actually are reported now, even though they happened, not very recently.
And because you said all 12 of those sites have been decontaminated now, what are you urging people who are walking around? Can they walk around safely in Central Harlem?
Absolutely. People can walk around Central Harlem safely. They can drink their tap water. They can cook with that water. They can take showers. All of those things are safe in Central Harlem. And again, from our perspective, we are seeing a very good trend in the number of new cases really going down significantly. That tells us that our efforts working with building owners to remediate any positive cooling towers have been very effective in stopping the spread of the Legionella.
So how did we get to that point, though? Because you were on the morning news, and I was listening to you talk about how these things are maintained, right? And it's up to the individual buildings to go up there and maintain these cooling towers. If you get rainwater and the heat, that's how the Legionella kind of forms, right? One of them was Harlem Hospital. There is this lawsuit now against the city. I know you can't talk about the lawsuit, but was there a failure of buildings to properly maintain?
The first thing I'll say is that it is the building owner's responsibility to adhere to the law. New York City was the first place in the entire country to implement a law that requires building owners to register their cooling tower, maintain it, and report to the health department on their testing. So that's the first part. The second piece is, even if a building owner adheres completely to those laws, it's still possible that Legionella can grow, especially in the summertime when all of the conditions are ripe for this bacteria to just proliferate. And so that does also happen sometimes. The final thing that I'll mention is that our role at the health department is to make sure that those building owners are adhering to the law. That's what our expert inspectors go out and do when they inspect a cooling tower. And just a parenthesis, I was at a cooling tower yesterday. It is a complex, entity. And so we really do need these expert inspectors to work with the building owners to make sure they're adhering. However, just like a colonoscopy, getting your colonoscopy, which I encourage all New Yorkers to do, doesn't mean that you're not going to get colon cancer, right? But you should still get that colonoscopy. Similarly, our inspectors do the same job basically as that. We believe that, and we know that their inspections kind of enforce and make sure building owners are adhering to the law. But even with that enforcement, it doesn't mean that Legionella will be prevented 100%.
Understood. Thank you for explaining all of that. Keep us posted, okay, on the findings.
Yes.
I want to talk about back to school season. People trying to ramp up those immune systems once again, both for the adults and the kiddos. So what's your recommendation heading into the school year?
Yes, the first thing I want to say, and I want all the listeners to know this very clearly, even though there's been a lot in the news about the CDC and vaccination recommendations, there is no new data saying anything other than vaccines are safe and effective. And so that has not changed. There's no new science or new data saying anything different. However, we know that parents have more questions and that lots of New Yorkers have more questions. Our role is to make sure that we continue to use science and data to make vaccine recommendations clear. So all the kids going back to school, get ready, get your vaccines. There are 7 required vaccines for back to school. The good news again, 96% of New York kids entering kindergarten have had the required 7 vaccines. What I'm worried about, 65% of our 2-year-olds in New York City have gotten those vaccines, those 7 required vaccines. I want to see that number go up, and I want all the parents out there to know.
Those are mandatory?
Those are mandatory for entering kindergarten.
Yeah.
And so I want the parents to know the earlier they get their children those vaccines, the more safe they are. And the more safe they are from measles, which is circulating in high amounts right now, and the more safe their whole family and community is. So nothing has changed in the safety and efficacy of those 7 vaccines.
How do you ensure that somebody going that is actually getting the mandatory vaccines they need?
Yes. So we have really sophisticated data systems. We work very closely with the chancellor and New York City Public Schools to make sure that vaccine records are on file. And then we have a pretty sophisticated data system. Our data system allows us to know every kid's vaccination record. We track that and we actually report it publicly. So all the parents out there, if you're curious, well, what's the vaccination rate for measles in my neighborhood? You can look it up on our website. We have a vaccine data reporter, and any parent in any neighborhood can take a look. In fact, I would encourage them to do that and encourage their community to get vaccinated.
Yeah, because a lot of the migrant community, migrant children, there's a fear now, especially what's going on with ICE raids, that they may not want to go to the doctor's office to get the vaccines to then go to school.
Yeah, we acknowledge that that is a concern. And, on the one hand, it is absolutely imperative that the New York City know that we don't actually collect documentation status in our vaccine records. That's not part of what we do. And we have a number of we're very lucky to have so many trusted providers across New York City who will make sure those vaccines are taken care of so that kids can get into school. That's the most important thing for them at this age.
Yeah, absolutely. And Health and Human Services Secretary RFK Jr. has actually taken away some federal recommendations, though, for flu vaccines. So do you think that means that you're going to see flu shot vaccinations for both adults and kids go down?
My hope is no. What I'm worried about is every fall and winter, we do a big push in the city to make sure New Yorkers are vaccinated.
We get them on the air here.
Exactly. And the last year's flu season was one of the worst on record. Unfortunately, we had more pediatric deaths than we've seen in a very long time from the flu. And that doesn't just mean that kids need to be vaccinated for the flu. It means adults need to be vaccinated. Again, that's the benefit of vaccination. It protects everyone. And so I am praying and hoping, and we're engaging very deeply with providers, community members, and lots of folks out there who can help us spread the message that the flu vaccine is safe, it is life-saving, and that every New Yorker who qualifies should get it.
Yeah, I mean, that message is out there every year, and if your numbers are going down, I don't know how much more you can do to convince somebody, but there's also the conversation of a COVID booster shot, right? And whether or not people still need it. I've gotten people asking me, do I need to get it? Is it required to get it? What's your advice?
First thing I'll tell you, the COVID vaccine remains safe and effective. We have extensive data showing its safety. The second thing is that we know that the COVID vaccine really decreases your risk of being hospitalized or dying from COVID. And then the third thing is that every New Yorker has a little bit of a different health situation. Some people's immune systems aren't working great. Some folks are older. Some folks live in nursing homes where their risk is higher. So each person should really make a decision with their provider about the utility and the timeliness of getting another COVID vaccine and booster.
Okay. Acting Health Commissioner Dr. Michelle Morse, appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Come back in the fall in the morning show. Give Hazel and I the shots, okay?
I would love to.
All right, we'll see you then. Still to come, everybody, the former right hand to Mayor Adams finding herself in front of a judge again, facing more corruption charges. What we know now about the growing investigation over at City Hall. Plus, the race across the Hudson in Jersey City, the mayor there heating up. Councilman James Solomon going on the record to talk about his plan to make the city more affordable when we come back.
You're watching PIX on Politics with Dan Mannarino.
And welcome back to PIX on Politics, everybody. So we're taking a closer look now over at the Jersey City mayoral race. It brings back a familiar face, former New Jersey Governor Jim McGreevey. Remember him, who is now running against Jersey City Councilman James Solomon. So Solomon has served in the council since 2017. Before he moved to Jersey City, he worked as an aide to the mayor of Boston. And I spoke to him this week about his plans for Jersey City, from the affordability crisis to path problems. And the councilman is joining me now. So great to have you here on PIX on Politics.
Dan, thanks for having me.
So let's talk about this. The new internal poll from your campaign, reported on by the New York Post, that you're leading your opponent, who is the former governor of New Jersey, Jim McGreevey, by 1%. So the race is obviously very close. How do you plan to even kind of widen that lead?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the key issue, just as it is here in New York, is affordability, right? In Jersey City, our rents have now increased to be some of the highest in the nation. Property taxes have increased by 50% in 5 years, and lots of residents are being pushed out. So we are going to be clear that we have real plans to keep Jersey City residents in their homes.
I have my ear to the ground. I'm a New Jersey resident myself, and yes, affordability and property taxes is the #1 issue for so many. As a mayor, many people think it's the governor who controls property taxes. It's not. It's the mayor at the municipal level. Would you pledge to not raise property taxes?
So we are going to end the big tax increases that have happened. So 50% in 5 years. Think about how much that has been. That's been totally unacceptable. We have cracked down on some of the biggest developers, contractors, and corporations that simply were not paying their tax. They owe taxes to our public schools through a payroll tax, and they simply weren't paying it. So my office led basically the charge to get them to pay. And because of that, we have helped homeowners. So we are going to simply end those big tax increases that have really, really burdened homeowners in Jersey City.
Yeah, but that's not a pledge to not raise property taxes.
Yeah, I mean, so basically, we're going to keep them at the rate of inflation. So I don't want to promise something that I can't deliver, but the rate of inflation is what they're going to be at.
Okay, and something that I had spoken to Mayor Fulop about during his tenure of 12 years was that the school board has a bit of an influence on how property
100%.
taxes are raised. Should they?
So they are a separate entity, right? And they do have control. So they're a separate government entity. My job, though, as mayor, is to take leadership over the city's education.
Right, but what I'm saying is, okay, how can you say I'm not going to keep up with inflation if the school board says I want to raise taxes?
Right. By getting involved in elections, right? I had endorsed in the last school board election 2 candidates, and they won. And they won because they were public school parents fed up with taxes raising, but the quality of public school not getting better. I'm a public school parent as well in Jersey City, and what I'm going to do is support candidates with a real vision for strong public schools, but also well-governed public schools. And we simply haven't had that with our current board, and that's why in this election I've endorsed 3 change candidates as well.
Who don't want to go about that way.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and then there's this whole idea of what's happening in Washington, D.C. kind of looming large over every election.
Absolutely.
And that's tariffs, the cost of inflation, causing everything to go up. How, as a mayor, would you help some of small businesses even just deal with some of the cost of goods? Many small businesses are worried they have to close down.
Yeah, 100%. So we are going to have extraordinarily robust small business efforts. During COVID, I was on the ground working with small businesses, helping them to get PPP loans, helping them stay open. And that type of on-the-ground work is what we'll deliver as mayor. But I think more broadly, what we're seeing is President Trump really harming the country. And I think there is a pretty big difference in our race between myself and the former governor. Right? The former governor is courting Trump supporters. He hired Donald Trump's pollster to be his pollster. He has taken donations from the same real estate billionaires who are funding the Trump movement, including the Kushner family, and refused to criticize Trump at a recent forum. So our view here is that what Trump is doing, the attacks he's bringing to Jersey City, attacks on our immigrant communities, attacks on our small businesses, are bad. And my commitment as mayor is to fight against them.
What about everyday residents, too, who are just worried about the cost of goods?
Yeah, 100%, right? Inflation, Donald Trump was elected on the issue of inflation, #1. And he has gotten into office and completely forgotten that, and has instead been increasing inflation through the tariffs and through other types of public policies.
So how do you fight it as a mayor?
You do what you can, right? There's obviously things that are out of your control, but you focus on what you do control. You control your ability to make small business permitting work in your city. You control the ability to make sure that small businesses can thrive, and so you're on the ground every day supporting those communities.
One of the big issues in Jersey City and the Garden State is the cost of utility prices. They're going up. Can you do anything as mayor to make utility costs just more affordable for the residents?
Yeah, so one utility that we have direct control over is the water and sewer bills. And the water and sewer bills in Jersey City have skyrocketed in part because a secret tax was placed upon them that we call the water tax. And it pays for the city's garbage collection. That was a mistake. It never should have been done. We can remove that and we can keep our water and sewer rates in check and help residents there. Obviously the PSE&G and those bills are largely outside the control of a mayor. But again, we focus on what we can control and we can make Jersey City more affordable. Another thing we did is we repealed fees that were put on place to use summer pools. We need free summer pools as a safe activity for residents across Jersey City. The current administration tried to balance the budget on the backs of working people, and we thought that was wrong. We repealed those fees and we made those summer pools free.
A big topic of conversation right now playing out all across the country is immigration.
Yeah.
And the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, sent a threat letter to Jersey City about its sanctuary city status. And you posted on X saying, if elected, that you will fight back against the Trump administration using every tool in your disposal to do so.
Yep.
So do you believe Jersey City should be a sanctuary city
100%.
and the state?
100%.
And how would you fight back against it then? Because you're seeing what's kind of playing out around the country.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, our values are not for sale. Jersey City is the golden door of America. We have Ellis Island as part of our home. We need to make sure that everybody in our city feels safe. And so my job as mayor is to make it clear that Jersey City law enforcement will not voluntarily cooperate with ICE without a criminal detainer. And right now, 70% of those detained have no criminal record. These are people that are just working hard, trying to make a better life. And there are children being pulled out of public schools, children with cancer, American citizens being deported, right? These are horrors that we need a mayor who will stand up and fight against it. So we will make sure that Jersey City does not voluntarily cooperate with ICE detentions.
But if you see kind of what plays out in Los Angeles, play out in a city like Jersey City, or the fact that the President Trump is now saying, well, I can put the National Guard or take over a police department. How would you fight back against it?
Yeah, I mean, Mayor Bass in LA went down. She spoke to the National Guard troops that were there, called it what it was wrong. She sued, as did Governor Newsom. Those are the exact types of actions that we would take to push back, right? People want, as you mentioned it, people want to see their prices go down, right? They don't want to see their neighbors attacked and sent into fear. And so we think very clearly stating that is going to show to residents all across Jersey City and the country that Trump's approach is wrong.
And let me just squeeze in one last question.
Yeah.
The path is one of the lifelines of Jersey City, right? And a lot of Jersey City residents are calling for the path to not stop in Hoboken on the weekends, instead go directly to Jersey City.
Yeah.
Could you have any influence on that?
We are going to push PATH. The first short-term step is to get them to run their weekend trains every 12 minutes, not every 20 minutes, and to stop the incredible delays. For your New York viewers, the PATH is worse than the MTA right now, which might be hard to believe, but it is. Long-term, we do want to get rid of that Hoboken stop so you can go direct on weekends on 33rd Street.
Okay, and you're endorsing Mikey Sherrill.
I'm endorsing Mikey Sherrill.
Okay. Mr. Solomon, great to have you here on PIX and Politics.
Dan, thank you for having me. I appreciate
it. We'll talk soon, okay?
Thank you.
And still to come, everybody, cash inside a bag of potato chips. Yes, the bizarre story of an Adams campaign volunteer handing money to a City Hall reporter. Hear from that reporter. Plus, the former chief advisor to Mayor Adams back in court facing new corruption charges in an ongoing probe into City Hall. We'll talk about it.
You're watching PIX on Politics with Dan Mannarino.
Welcome back, everybody. So multiple scandals once again swirling around Mayor Eric Adams. Ingrid Lewis-Martin facing a judge for more bribery charges as part of an ongoing City Hall corruption probe. Now, the former chief advisor denying any wrongdoing. Then there's this, a volunteer for the Adams campaign, Winnie Greco, former staffer, giving a reporter from the city, you've seen her on this show, Katie Honan, cash inside an empty bag of potato chips. There it is, okay? It had many people talking about this, right? Our PIX 11 political reporter Henry Rossoff covering all of it.
I don't know what she was trying to do, but whatever she was doing was inappropriate.
That's how Katie Honan, a reporter for the nonprofit publication The City, described what happened between her and Winnie Greco. Greco is a former top aide to Mayor Eric Adams who resigned after the FBI raided her homes. She currently volunteers for the Adams re-election campaign. After a campaign event Wednesday, Greco insisted on giving Honan a bag of sour cream and onion chips, refusing to take no for an answer. As Katie left and opened the bag, she saw it had a red envelope stuffed with cash, at least one $100 bill and several 20s. She alerted her editors and the authorities.
I don't know if what she did to me was explicitly illegal, but it may set a pattern, especially looking at these 4 separate indictments at Ingrid Lewis Martin. It looks, it looked like City Hall was for sale to the right price and the right person.
Lewis Martin, a former senior advisor to Mayor Adams, was indeed once again marched back into a Manhattan courtroom in handcuffs Thursday. She's been charged by the Manhattan DA with $75,000 in bribery. She was previously charged back in December in a separate bribery scheme related to construction projects. This indictment says she allegedly steered contracts for migrant shelters to certain property owners, fast-tracked the opening of a karaoke bar, and pressured the Department of Transportation to cancel a bike lane on McGinnis Boulevard. Did you accept bribes? Lewis Martin did not say anything coming or going from court, but her attorney says these charges are political. Another current city official was also wrapped up in the fresh round of indictments. Citywide Administrative Services Deputy Commissioner Jesse Hamilton is charged with fast-tracking certain projects and steering other contracts to certain people in exchange for renovations on his home. His attorney spoke after court.
I ask everybody in the public to reserve judgment till we let the truth come out.
That was our Henry Rossoff reporting. Now, in a series of statements, a spokesperson for Mayor Adams reiterated that he was not named in these fresh indictments, had no knowledge of the allegations. He is now barring Greco from all campaign activity, says he will not let any of this distract him from running the city. And you can also watch my full interview with Katie Honan from the city. It is posted now on PIX11.com. And with that, we'll be right back. All right, everybody, a reminder, the PIX7 political team working hard on the upcoming coverage of the New Jersey gubernatorial race. At the end of next month, I'm going to keep reminding you, September 30th, PIX7 will host the New Jersey Lieutenant Governor debate live at Kean University. We're also going to have live coverage at the university leading up to and after that debate. And then just a few days later, the same week, also at Kean University, we're going to be hosting a town hall with the candidates for governor. So Mikey Sherrill, Jack Citarelli joining me on the stage to answer your questions. So send me your questions. I want to hear from you. Dan at PIX11.com. Let me know what you want to ask any of these candidates. And that'll do it for another episode of PIX on Politics in a very busy world of politics. I'll see you next time. Enjoy the rest of your day.